Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Joann O'Brien. I am the VP of Beyond Connectivity, and it is my great pleasure to be with you here today to host our masterclass on connectivity as a service, where I am delighted to be joined by our esteemed panelists. We have Erik Meijer from Mach 49. Erik, would you like to turn on your camera and join us? We have Thierry Renard, who's from ETIA, has been a key leader of the Connectivity as a Service paper inside TM Forum and lead on the reference architecture. And we also have Elaine Haher from Cognizant, who has been a long-standing collaborator within inside TM Forum and a fellow of the collaboration teams in TM Forum, and has much experience in the area of marketplaces. We're particularly interested in Elaine's insights regarding the relationship between connectivity as a service and masterclasses. So just give each person a chance to say hello to you, and over to yourself there, Erik.
Hi, thank you, Joann, and thank you for a absolute stunning digital transformation world. Happy to be back. It's packed, it's full with info, and I can really encourage people to look again at recordings if you missed them. That's the beauty of being at home. I can, after a long days of work, I can relax over a session that I picked up on the day, and super insight. Thank you for the TM Forum team of getting this on the road, and this has been a huge success. On myself, as you know, I was before at the Group Innovation of Deutsche Telekom. I've moved to Mach 49. What is Mach 49? It's a growth accelerator for the Global 1000 businesses. So we built very large ventures, incubators, and CVC operations for the Global 1000 companies, but also for governments and non-for-profit and industry associations. And that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Erik. Thank you for joining us. And I think that insight between having the telecommunications background, that in-depth knowledge, and yet bringing the kind of Silicon Valley culture and innovation together is really what we're after here today. So thank you for that. Thierry, would you like to say hello to everybody?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Thierry Renard. So I've been in the telecom industry for around 20 years, working first very much in service control point, intelligent network and associated applications like prepaid and these things. And later in the MVNE business, the mobile virtual network operator enabler business. So there I was involved in design of OCS and redesign later and catalog and other services, multi-MC, a lot of things related to the mobile network. So I've been 4 years now working with ETIA, and where I have a specialization in OSS, working close to our OSS partner as a BSS company, and also as a solution architect. So I work very close to the pre-sales and sales group and of course the product groups. So that's basically my background and dedication. So thank you for this opportunity to give this introduction of CaaS today.
And thank you for joining us today. More importantly, your role here as a leader of the development of the connectivity as a service architecture inside TM Forum, that is a tremendous commitment and a demonstration of your thought leadership to the industry. So thank you for that. And Elaine, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Joann. So hi, I'm Elaine Haher. I am in an organization at Cognizant called Communications, Media, and Technology. My role is as Director of Business Solution Architecture, and we are supplying solutions into the market based on network cloud, and one of those is a digital services marketplace. And at TM Forum, as Joann would know, I started way back doing catalog management and working through how we model products, services, and resources, but then taking that approach and then moving to the Open API program and utilizing the Open APIs to help app developers build new value-added services, connected to what the operator can provide. And then we started to work in the smart city space, right, and start to do the hackathons. And we did a lot of hackathons together at different locations throughout the world. But lately I've been working in the Beyond Connectivity organization with Joann on the software marketplaces and putting together the business capabilities. And now we're going to map everything to the technical capabilities and then map it, the business capabilities and technical capabilities in the connectivity as a service.
Wonderful, Elaine. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you for your continued commitment and support to the TM Forum community. So just to get us started, I'm going to talk a little bit about why CaaS. Why are we even talking about CaaS? If you've joined us from other sessions at the Digital Transformation World Series, you will have heard concepts like we need to simplify connectivity. We need to hide the complexity of connectivity. We need to ensure that customers, and in this context, we're talking about enterprise customers, small to medium business, large scale enterprises, have the capacity, the ability to embed connectivity into their digital transformation, how they're going to run their operations and their businesses of the future. As we know from basically the result of the pandemic is an acceleration of digital transformation across all of our industry verticals. It is anticipated that it was approximately a 7-year acceleration as a result of the pandemic. So the need for CaaS to move beyond selling up technology into verticals is more pronounced now than ever before. And while we're also building from a place of having helped communication service providers to transform their architecture to an open digital architecture, a modular, flexible, scalable architecture exposed through standardized open APIs. And the next layer of that, in order to be able to capitalize on that, the first thing we need to do is deliver to the expectations of the customer. And that's really what this whole session is about. How do we shift the boundary of what we traditionally as an industry expose into other industries? Traditionally, we have sold connectivity or we have sold technology, and we've heard it many times throughout this event. We need to shift towards more solution-orientated services, our solutions in themselves, and that's what our customers want, our enterprise customers. So we've developed the concept of connectivity as a service, which is intent-driven dynamic realization of the connectivity solution based on customer intent. And Terry is going to take us through what that means in reality. What we're trying to get to you today is both an outside-in and an inside-out approach, because CaaS lives at that intersection, the business and technical boundary between what customers want and how you architecturally and deliver that from an implementation perspective. So I hope this session is very insightful to you and helps you to gain a new understanding about how we can architecturally change how we deliver connectivity services into the future, and from there build a trusted relationship to go beyond connectivity, and not just as individuals or as clusters, but as an industry. We need to change the perception of our industry as being too difficult to do business with, which is often something that is said. We need to shift it to being much more simple to do business with, and CaaS is a fundamental enabler to that. So moving to the next slide, we started with a survey to our members back in April of this year, and the first thing we identified was that there was no common understanding to what CaaS is. Connectivity as a service, we had many different responses to what CaaS is, and we also had many people who said they were already doing it. That tells us that there was a complete inconsistency to what CaaS is. And we as an industry cannot solve something that is inconsistent in this way. So the first thing we set about doing is to define what do we mean by CaaS and what it is that we are trying to deliver. And on the next slide, we captured some of those key principles. But fundamentally, what we recognize that we need to do as an industry is to shift the perception, shift the usability or the consumability of connectivity to something that is closer to what cloud is. So I appreciate that we've lined up these different technologies and compared them from a consumability perspective. Some people might say, oh, that's a little unfair, but yes, on one level it is unfair, but on another level, if you're a consumer of the services, it isn't unfair. It's, you know, we're looking at it from how do we scale up connectivity services in the future? How does it become resilient, secure, compliant, self-configurable? How do you deliver global connectivity services? How do you make it transparent and self-discoverable, and most fundamentally intent-driven based on the needs of the consumer, be that human, enterprise or machine? And that's really what we want to solve. We want to solve it, understand it more deeply from the customer perspective, which Erik will take us through, and understand architecturally how we can resolve it, and Terry will take us through that. So just to introduce then Erik, and Erik will give us a perspective from the customer regarding how important this is as a topic for them. Over to you, Erik.
Thank you, Joann, for a very good lay of the land. So what is happening with the customers is they're going from business as usual into venturing. And that means that they need a very dynamic environment where they can start to scale their new businesses. So again, I moved from Deutsche Telekom to Mach 49. Why? Because I was looking for the model how to work in a business environment with a superior return of connectivity. Because in the end, all these business models, and Elaine will also take us through like marketplace platform models, have a superior return because there is connectivity. And so Mach 49 is building large-scale ventures and incubators and CVC operations for the Global 1000, industry associations and governments. And a few highlights here, areas where we work is fleet electrification. So just imagine if you want to electrify a fleet, what is happening now at large scale in governments, in commercial operations for truck, buses, and what have you, and smaller fleets. And if you want to like charge those fleets, you can't just hook them up to an electricity network because it would just kill the electricity network. So here we have two complexities coming together, the complexities of running a fleet operation and the complexity of running a grid. And a second example is renewable power. So talking about that grid, how is that grid going to look? And we now need to green our operations, as you know, by the global investors who has now come out with their new demands for green investment criteria, but also governments who are really pushing forward on this. And this will never happen without connectivity, because here we see a decentralization of the grid. And what is happening here is that the actors who are consumers of electricity become also producers of electricity because they put very large installations on the roof of their factories, on the depots of their buses, what have you. So again, here also renewable power is decentralized, but it's also not a power source that can be consumed at the same time that it is produced. So there again, you need to come up with connectivity and very quick responses to, in this case, to a battery which stores the electricity. Another example here is cellular medicine. What is happening in cellular medicine is that we have now treatments for specific persons in the areas of cancer and other very hard to solve diseases. What is happening here is we take cells out of a body, we start to work on those cells with machines, and those machines are then connected to networks, are connected to hospitals, are connected to fleet managers who then need to transport those cells. And as you can imagine, the cell and the body are two like dynamic instances, and they need to be connected on the right time. So the right time for extracting the cells and the right time for putting them back. And as Joann already said, COVID-19 has completely accelerated this. So in the cellular medicine space, it is just a huge investment wave going on and a huge production wave of new solutions. Now, as said, working with CSPs to serve these customer ventures is extremely important. What is happening in these ventures is there's three different stages where CaaS really comes to play. And connectivity as a service in build to learn. So the initiation of the solution that we are building is never going to be the end. And in this like build to learn phase, we very quickly need to work with our service providers to get to new configurations, which are not single party, but multi-party, as I just described in before. And then the second stage that we have is that we only need to configure them dynamically with intent, as Thierry will explain later, but we also need to automate them aggressively. So if we have that intent captured and we know where we want to go, we need to automate that aggressively. And then the third point comes in, if we have automated this with dynamic modeling and machine learning and AI, we then aggressively need to scale that, because otherwise the business instance is not commercially viable. And these three very different stages are very important, and they live off connectivity as a service. Without that, they can't even exist, because it's, imagine business as usual, but then in seconds, in split seconds times. So imagine a trading instance on a battery on an open market. So you can imagine this battery is sitting in a facility, it has reserve energies, and it wants to be traded on the market. So all that automation needs to be. And then the point what I just elaborated on already is execute and master faster timescales. So the timescales are now, the iterations are extremely rapid, and there is no time for an RFP anymore. So that is extremely important to take away here. And then the very aggressive globally scale. And I think, and we know that operators are the best here. We provide global connectivity already to our multinationals, and we are, like, the ones who can really make this happen. And of course, driven by very agile iterations, very co-development cycles. The other point to make is that we see a lot of multi-stakeholders executions with key client partners and startups. So what the Global 1000 are doing is they work with their clients to get to their next phase of growth, also introducing partners, also introducing innovative startups. And you see a large-scale example at the right top, where you see three large parties, being the automotive manufacturer Mitsubishi, the battery and grid integrator Hitachi, and the energy company Engie. And you see here that all those parties need to work together, and that makes it very complex. If you have one party already trying to execute an innovation, it's complex, but the complexity squares up as you introduce more parties. So the multi-stakeholder approach can only done by CaaS. It cannot be done by a traditional approach for a CSP. And a CSP need to think about, how can I set up an environment for my client base that they can automatically mix and match what they need on a second basis, right? And then what you see here is, of course, what we're talking about here is the linking to the business model. So you can see here 4 layers. You see the business interaction modeling, to the workflows, to the software, to the hardware. And we have done quite some work, and thank you to everybody online, and thank you to the TM Forum, because it's been a very important development in my personal life as an executive, is working with those modeling capabilities as we have in CuratedX, working with external parties, visiting the accelerator booth as we were live, and now just seeing the accelerator and catalyst developments. So these are extremely important to have. And then the last point is the utility building, the intent-driven approaches that Thierry will go in depth, right? Joann, I hope that was a good.
Lovely, Erik. And yeah, thank you for that, because it brings it to life. It brings it to life about the importance of what we do. And just maybe a quick question to you is, how critical is it that CSPs build upon a position of connectivity as a service in order to build a trust that they need to go beyond connectivity? Do you see that as a fundamental enabler?
Yes, absolutely. And I see also CSPs doing this. So you see the venture fund of Deutsche, you see the venture fund of Verizon already getting into the play on a venture level, because they understand there's the multiples. So the connectivity itself is not going to be the value driver anymore. It's going to be, what can we do on top of it, and deeply understanding those clients and their partners and their innovative plays, and helping them to get ahead of their play, and not like, waiting for the RFP, so to say.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Erik. So we're going to move ahead, having understood the importance and the urgency essentially on connectivity as a service. We're now going to shift to Thierry Reynard. And Thierry, as we mentioned, is one of our lead architects working on connectivity as a service, designing the common standard for connectivity as a service and how we as an industry can help solve this. So over to yourself there, Thierry, and help us understand how we can realize and resolve this challenge.
Thank you, Joann, and thank you, Erik, for this introduction with the ecosystem, which is the base for it, and together with ZTP, for example, a zero-touch partnership. Those are the two. Well, those are two of the fundamental building blocks we need in order to deliver on the promises. Here, we will introduce quickly on a high level what could be the architecture of connectivity as a service. So, going first to an introduction.
Sorry, Thierry, you're actually going on mute. Can you just check your mute button?
Yeah, you're right. So okay. we will go quickly in this overview introduction to connectivity as a service, trying first to define connectivity as a service, and then go to the main characteristics and life cycle of CaaS. So we define here connectivity as a service as an intent-driven dynamic realization of connectivity solution based on customer expectations. So what does that mean? The keyword here is intent-driven in the sense that as the use case we have on these slides provide, a persona is expressing a goal and expectations which defined an intent. Here, the persona I need connectivity for a certain number of augmented reality devices, bring this traffic to their application in the cloud, and be able to stream this traffic from this traffic which have been uploaded to whoever want to access to this traffic. So here we have a goal and we have expectations. The expectation is that the quality of a service is compatible with augmented reality, and that I can stream equally efficiently this traffic back to whoever wants to access to it. Okay, the intent is here we have an intent expressed by a customer, so we would call that a customer intent expressed in English, in natural language. This intent will have to be understood and modeled so that the intent for the core commerce will not be the same that the intent for CaaS. What is the intent for the core commerce here? I, as a party role, want a quote for this service. The connectivity intent here is connection of so many terminals, etc., etc. Okay, so characteristic on as a characteristics on the intent, sorry. The intent is the CaaS is intent driven, so it will receive the connectivity intent from the core commerce. The core commerce will have received the customer intent saying, produce a quote for connecting so many devices through this for this type of traffic, etc., etc. We'll have extracted this connectivity intent, and without knowing anything about how it will be resolved, it passes it to CaaS for CaaS to model the connectivity services that eventually will be used. So in order to do that, CaaS will have to understood what are the requirements which are behind the goal and the expectations. What is the requirements to collect traffics with a quality of service for augmented reality, 5G slides? What is the requirements to bring my to bring this traffic to an application somewhere in the cloud, an EVC? What is the requirements in order to do streaming, a content delivery network? So they will have defined the requirements, and based on the requirements, CaaS can identify what are the existing CFS, the existing service, which are exposed through a service catalog in different domains, including partner domains, so that I can compose and assemble these services in a composite service that I will expose back to co-commerce to proceed with their code. So from that point of view, CaaS has to be able to interface with NAS and in general the service domain, the resource domain exposing CFS, exposing a network and other services. It has to be to take into account 5G, as we saw, and also edge computing, as the example of network of content delivery networks proves. So it will intelligently select and combine the CFS. It will handle also an integration with autonomous network through intent. An example would be the control loop with autonomous network, so that CaaS is permanently fed with information on monitoring of what's going on and is able to react or to tune the service. Maybe the 5G slice we have defined for augmented reality at the beginning is based on generic considerations or parameters, specifications. And as the traffic goes, we can tune this. Finally, it will deliver back to co-commerce a set of services that co-commerce will be able to use in order to finish the quote and go on. So if we look at the life cycle of CaaS, we start with a customer intent, which may contain different level of intents. As we said, the intents can be dependent on the domain. Each domain, for example, may have a specific vocabulary, a specific semantics. So each domain will be concerned with different type of intents. The co-commerce will have intents of his quote. In order to realize the intent of his quote, they will request an intent for the connectivity service to CaaS. Okay, CaaS will send an intent on SLA and monitoring of the resources to the resource domain, so that they have feedback on how is going the service. So all the idea here, and as we see on the slide, is that eventually the CaaS will return one of several CFS that the co-commerce can look for the correspondence in the corresponding catalog, product catalog from my partners, for example, when they are included. So let's come back to the example of driving this this traffic I have from the 5G network to the cloud. In order to do that, I need an end-to-end connection, an EVC. And in order to get this EVC, I will need first my connection to some meet-me room somewhere, and a partner to provide the connection, eventually to the cloud where the application resides. So what CaaS will do when they build this transport connectivity service, CaaS will look for the availability of its CFS from the operator to the meet-me room, look for possible partners delivering CFS or exposing CFS to route the traffic to the cloud, and assemble that in one CFS exposed to the co-commerce with associated characteristics, associated specifications, and even preset specifications, so that then the co-commerce can look into their product catalog, find the corresponding pricing rules and pricing for the different pieces of the service with the specified characteristics, and finally present the quote and go on and steal the order, etc., etc. So that is for the moment the very high level architecture of CaaS where we have reached. Now we are starting work on the technical architecture. So we're just starting the work groups and the sessions on defining the technical architecture for CaaS. So I cannot do anything else than invite you to join us and define this interesting word. And that's all for me, Joann.
Thank you, Terry. I might ask you a question there just before we move on, just to clarify a couple of things. So on CaaS, right, one, it's intent driven. So that's the intentions of the customer essentially, right? Then we're talking about essentially CaaS as the component lives at the production layer and leverages the existing CSC, not just of your own organization, but that of partners. Isn't that right?
It's right. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. You through ZTP, partners will expose their products and well, they onboard themselves and they onboard their products. So as a partner, I can onboard my content delivery network as an application, and then expose the corresponding services. Okay, through a service catalog.
Perfect.
Okay? So and when I return to the core commerce, it will know what is the corresponding product he has to take. It didn't know before CaaS tells it, in order to deliver that, you need this service.
Perfect. So, and the intelligent selection of the right connectivity for a given service is also living at the production layer, is that right? Yeah. Sorry. So the intelligent selection, the resolution of the right connectivity is living at the production layer, is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely, because it is dealing specifically and uniquely with CFS, actually.
Perfect. Okay, super, Terry. Thank you so much for that. Just a couple of questions just to make sure we bed in the concept there. And now I'm going to invite Elaine to join us. Elaine has a lot of expertise on marketplaces, and we believe the relationship between connectivity as a service and marketplaces is key as part of the roadmap to future strategies of CSPs with regards to going beyond connectivity and building up their B2B business, essentially. Over to yourself there.
Okay, thanks, Joann. So I'm going to utilize an example to discuss how the marketplace relates to connectivity as a service in a B2B to X scenario. And I'll plug that we have a catalyst in the catalyst area, so you can go and get more technical information about this. But from a digital services marketplace, in this case, is a multi-partner ecosystem approach to market for, in this case, Industry 4.0 vertical solutions. So the marketplace on the left supports these different industries. So in this, we have the sports industry, smart cities, healthcare, and a lot of different selections for somebody to go into the marketplace to find the solutions that they're looking for. We're going to utilize the sports industry. And our customer is the B2B customer is ESPN, a broadcaster. And that broadcaster is going to really want to delight the sports fan at the stadium for a particular event that's happening in the near future. So the broadcaster comes into the marketplace and selects the sports industry, determines what stadium location they're looking for, then determines the size of the stadium and approximate amount of people to be supported, or fans in the stadium to be supported, and figures out the day of the event and selects the different types of camera views. Let me see if I can put this. So they select the cameras for the corner view of the stadium, maybe some cameras for the goalposts, a spider cam view, they can select a drone view. So all of those different cameras are already deployed in the stadium, and he or she can pick the different camera views. So what the marketplace is doing is taking the ESPN broadcasters order business intent, and then with one click can submit the order for what the operator or the digital service provider will supply as connectivity as a service to match that intent, without requiring the consumer to know the ins and outs of what the network services might need to be. So the broadcaster is supplied, a price sheet of different choices or alternatives, and he or she can select one with one click, what he wants to order for that event on that day. What gets delivered in the back end is the RAN and the edge. The hyperscaler delivers the cloud and the cloud-based MEC, multi-access edge, and that enables the latency required to deliver, the 5G services through the 5G core, enables the media server to support the broadcast. And at the end of the day, once that B2B order is taken, the fan at the stadium is then going to have the best fan experience, because they're going to get the different camera views on their app on their phone. Now, if we relate this back to what Thierry and Erik have talked about previously, from a TM Forum perspective, there's a set of business capabilities that a digital service provider needs to have in order to deliver connectivity as a service. There's a set of business capabilities that a DSP needs to have in order to deliver a software marketplace. Those business capabilities need to be backed up by technical capabilities. And we've been building libraries of these technical capabilities through the TM Forum, such as the TM Forum Open APIs. And in this example, we're using the TM Forum Open APIs through a federation layer in order to deliver this intent-based connectivity as a service solution to that ESPN broadcaster. So the group here is organized around connectivity as a service and looking at what are the technical capabilities that we need from the zero-touch partnering to the different or new open APIs that we're going to need for connectivity as a service. Thanks, Joann.
Thank you, Elaine. That's fantastic. So I'm going to invite all our panelists back on. So Elaine, particularly for yourself, I mean, this relationship between connectivity as a service and software marketplaces. We've published a paper on software marketplaces, and we will be hosting a masterclass on software marketplaces next week. But the specific opportunity of combining the concept of connectivity as a service and software marketplaces, do you believe that SMB businesses are actually going to come to these different marketplaces of telcos? What's your thought on that? Or is there another intermediary group that will actually leverage the content of the marketplaces into the SMB businesses?
Yeah, so small and medium business is a little bit different, right? I've been working with a smart city for a while, and it's normally in an operator, they do work hand in hand, right? And they have a direct sales force that are going out and working with these folks. So that direct sales force is going to have to, with the SMB market, try to direct them to that to the marketplace, I believe, to get that process started. As marketplaces become more ecosystem oriented, where it's marketplace to marketplace and it's broader, I think that we'll get more uptick in folks utilizing it on a normal basis. I mean, we went through this with even your own phone and ordering on your phone, and getting things delivered and all of that. So I think consumers are more aware, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think that really kind of brings to like the full circle of the life cycle of this concept, from the needs of the enterprises, the technology and the architectural structure for how to actually realize it, and then the go-to-market in collaboration with marketplaces and zero-touch partnering and telco services of other partners. So thank you for that. So I'm going to pick up some questions, some excellent questions here on the chat. So Thierry, there's a question here about the relationship between connectivity as a service and ODA and the other frameworks of TM Forum. And I think you captured, even though we didn't call it out, visually it certainly was there. So you might talk us through that, just so we're actually very explicit to our members.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, ODA is CaaS is in the scope of ODA is situated in the production block, okay, in the sense that it is dealing dynamically with customer-facing services, and will expose these customer-facing services that it will combine and expose to the co-commerce. Okay, so there is a part in the intent which is related to CaaS in the sense that, as I mentioned before, this customer intent has to be decomposed in domain intent. It's not the same for the co-commerce intent. It's not the same intention that has a co-commerce than the production intent, okay, the CaaS intent, connectivity intent. So the co-commerce to deliver on their intent need the connectivity intent. Connectivity intent is realized is we understand what are the requirements, we understand what are the type of services we need in order to fulfill these expectations, okay? And then we find what are the services that together will provide this solution. And it's going back to the co-commerce.
Wonderful. Thank you, Terry. And just to kind of add to that, I mean, we're following a standard process for what we develop. In the first instance, we create the white paper, which sets out the vision for what we need to achieve, the challenge of the industry and the high-level architecture for how to realize that. And now we've started, led by Terry, the more detailed reference architecture, which will capture the business and technical capabilities, use cases, and architecture itself. And then ultimately we will create like the API profiles and the API components that are needed to realize CaaS in a consistent way right across the industry. So that pattern of what we do fits the pattern of all ODA components. Is that right, Terry, in your view?
Absolutely. Well, what we will start to do now, what we are starting to do now is to define the technical architecture. So what are the technical capabilities that CaaS has to deliver? Eventually, it will come to APIs and what are these capabilities, how they are, in which components, okay, which components deliver them within ODA. So, yes.
Yeah, okay, very good, very good. And Erik, this is your first time being talked through the architecture of this. Tell us, you know, how do you feel with your telco background and you're coming from a position here where you're representing those businesses? Do you think this is going to satisfy the need, this dynamic, scalable delivery of connectivity as a service?
Yeah, and to one plus on that, the industry wants to build on it. So bringing the verticals and the horizontals together in a venturing model, like we're talking smart health here, we're talking smart industry. And what these corporations want is their IT departments with their partners and their clients and their innovators to build on that platform and to mix and match. Remember, very simple example, Salesforce was extremely successful through their platform one. They allowed every vertical to build their instances on their platforms. I think that is a very powerful dynamic. The second one is, of course, the standardization. So globally, industries want to connect, and you see a lot of co-competition going on, because otherwise you get swallowed by OTTs, over the tops, right? And we're not the only industry which is facing this. If you look at the energy industry, at the car manufacturing industry, at the battery industry, right? The traditionals are really getting into. On your other point, for the long tail in Asia, we've seen with Axiata, with the Appigate, a very good example, that the long tail can also very, very much beneficial here. So if the large mega parties have built something, they usually throw it open to the long tail because everybody goes in the same flight and they can do the self-service. So we've seen a lot, and when we did the smart cities in Yinchuan, you saw a lot of examples of people basically like having very basic amenities, but we saw people with smartphones, right? Very good example that still is in my head, that you see this lady selling on the street her watermelons on a phablet phone, right? And we were like envious of her phone because those APIs were enabled. She could do core commerce on a very little, like, you know, instance very quickly and take it mobile. That's another like thing of we are the makers of that infrastructure, of that fabric, where the others are like, you know, getting multiples on their business incomes by using our fabric. I think that we should see as a telecom operator that we also need to get into the venturing. That's why I think the Mach 49 example with the characteristics that Elaine and Thierry just described are magic, that they're like, you know, and look again, like there are few people flying into space without an astronaut. How did that happen? Well, that was communication technology. I'll stop here. I can go on forever.
Thanks, Erik. We've got a good lot of questions coming in on the chat window, so I'm going to bring them into the conversation. So firstly, to give additional context is that what we're talking about here, connectivity as a service, and I've mentioned a paper that has recently been published. The links for those I have popped into the chat window, so you're welcome to pick those up, and they're freely available. With regards to the future work and getting involved in that future work, we welcome new members into that work. We meet on Thursdays at 1 p.m. UK time, and that team is a growing team, and absolutely people who particularly seeking architects to join that work right now. Additionally, we have another point here regarding I think, so there's a compliments to Elaine on the presentation. I think this is among one of the key successes to deliver real digital services, not like digital services of the past. And they would like to know if what you presented will be available, the notion of standardized marketplace works, and how use cases can such as SD-WAN can be used. So maybe just, I guess, briefly talk about the marketplace work that we're doing at Team Forum and the relationship to the different use cases.
Sure. So I gave an example of a use case that's being highlighted as a catalyst with multi-partners, multi-champions. So you can see that under the digital services marketplace in the catalyst area. But what I was talking about is our work for software marketplaces, which is our initiative to standardize marketplace work. And we've taken a long time to create what are the business capabilities that need to be created, that a DSP, a digital service provider, needs to have in order to supply a marketplace to the market. And I'll give you some examples. So, from a business capability perspective, there's party management, there's revenue management, there's commerce management. How do I set this up on a portal? Does it have to be a portal? It could be a portal, it could be an end user application, it could be a zero touch request via open APIs for something, right? There's marketing and account management and the curation of the marketplace itself, and strategy and legal business capabilities and supply chain, and how do I make returns of equipment that doesn't work. With IoT devices, with billions of devices, the supply chain from a marketplace can be a big deal that you need to deal with. There's research and development just on how to make a better marketplace, right? When you're running a marketplace, and security and privacy concerns, and then the whole suite of offer management and how are you going to make these offers available. And of course, we always back that up with a TM Forum catalog with products and services and the underlying resources to meet those needs. But we've also updated the catalog to have an entity catalog for those folks that come from outside of the telco industry, right? So that we have the business capability to take in an offer that doesn't meet the product service resource model, but is just an entity that you want to supply. So I think there's a lot behind the business capabilities, and then there's the whole work that we're doing for the technical capabilities that map to those business capabilities in the software marketplace space. I hope that answers. So SD-WAN is just another use case for a software-defined type network offer that needs to be provided as connectivity as a service.
Exactly. So these are the list of things available to be selected from to realize the resolution of the connectivity.
Right.
So we've quite a few questions still coming in regarding use cases. So firstly, I want to point people to the connectivity as a service white paper and the appendix in the white paper, which has an entire table of use cases. But they briefly cover from industrial manufacturing to healthcare to automotive, smart cities. And like everything what we do at the forum is the generic, consistent, scalable, common component that can then be extended and used for given scenarios. And when you hear a lot of language at TM4 about, oh, common core versus a vertical extension, this is what we're talking about. This connectivity as a service is one of those common cores that you will need in order to have that reusability, scalability, and interoperability, so that you can have deliver the connectivity as a service for many different types of use cases. So in one respect, yes, you need use cases to walk through in order to fully understand the potential of CaaS, but you won't realize the full potential of CaaS if you focus purely on the use cases. You need to get back to the common core, and then also have teams of people who are going to exploit that common core into your different verticals. Anyone else like to comment on the points regarding use cases to help add color to this? Erik, would you like to talk to that?
Yep. Yeah. So what we see is like we have a build to learn phase, and there we do like there was an organizational question, and there's a very rigorous methodology of doing this, because in innovation has this this aura of it being like, you know, a freewheeling environment. It's not. It is a brutally hard try of different combinations at a pace which is unseen in corporates. And if you as a CSP can give that environment, that sandbox that they can act in, they are your customer. And here again, you need to be very rigorous in your testings, in your sprints and the agile methodologies, and then in the launch in the organization. Normally the organization is not ready for this, and you don't want the how do you call it? I say it's like mountaineering. You don't want everybody on the mountain. You want also the base camp who helps the guys on the mountain, right? Yeah. And it can't happen without the large corporation turning the inside out. Remember what Elaine just referred to, carrier billing? We had carrier billing inside, and now we use it in app stores for third parties who aren't bankable to, like, you know, have that future. If you look at our call centers, why don't we use the same setups that, like, you know, we turn the inside out as we did with the Uncarrier at T-Mobile? We started to flip, and now the call center was something I always wanted to buy, because we didn't have a problem with the billing anymore, because it was $50, $100 or the Netflix thing, and that was it. There was no questions. And then we started to use that for the what Elaine was saying. Like, we had a special line at the theater. You had ticketing going on. So on your ARP, we had a lot of more elements where you were like dynamically in the background doing your carrier billing, doing your location, because people on a certain evening are deciding, hey, I want to go to a game, right? Mm-hmm. And to have that orchestrated, as Terry said, like in the right way with the right parties on the right moment for the right client. That client is having a micro moment and they want it now, right? Mm-hmm. That is the whole thing, which is the beauty of this. And to orchestrate that means that you have to have that dynamic environment which works on the very stable basis of what has been happening and operating in a CSP, because you certainly don't want your network work folks and your billing folks to get creative, right? That's not what we want. But the other combinations that Terry just said, like dynamically getting services in and out, that's where you want it. And the others have to like do that scale component. That's agile versus scale. Very, very hard to get right.
Wonderful. Good compliments to yourself, Erik, coming in on the chat, and request to understand if the operating model is, have you a repeatable operating model? I believe I've heard from you at least an inference towards a repeatable operating model. Can you just elaborate on that just very briefly?
Yes. So our CEO will publish, the lady Linda Lates will publish a methodology on Harvard, how this works, right? That's the, and they're working with a CSP is where the beauty gets done, because a venture has venture stages and investment stages, and multiples need to be like, you know, achieved. If not, there's just not a funding round. And that hits directly back in how you organize your communication skills.
When will we see that?
That book is coming out next year, Harvard Business Press. Really recommended read for people who want to scale up aggressively large in very established businesses.
Thanks, Erik. That's fantastic. And Terry, I have a question for yourself. Will SLA monitoring, service assurance, be included in the delivery towards the customer as part of the CaaS component?
Yes, in the sense that, as I mentioned, the control loop approach from autonomous network, introduced with autonomous network, will provide permanent information on KPIs, on SLA, or monitoring in general. So this is the information that, for example, CaaS would have to consolidate when it comes to the end-to-end service that will be exposed to the core commerce to the customer. So it's an SLA on the service of the customer. Let's take the example of, I have this 5G slice, okay, to collect the traffic. Then I have this transport to go to the cloud and deliver to the cloud. So it is this end-to-end service that I would provide the SLA on to the core commerce, that the core commerce will be able to manage with their customers.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our session. I'd like to give each of you the opportunity to give a final point, a summation to the audience. What's the one big message you want to give? So I'll start with yourself, Erik. You're gone on mute, sorry.
Just trying to find my mouse on 3 screens. Sorry for that. The invitation is open. So we have a lot of clients who want to work with CSP in this mode as I just described. We are talking with a TM firm about setting up a fund on a specific discipline. So if there's appetite in the CSPs to work together with us, we're open for business in the CSP way, as we know it from TM Forum in the Catalyst projects. Love to do that. And for any comments, reachable at Mark49. Yeah.
Super, thank you. Terry, your final message to our audience today?
I can only invite everyone to join the working group. I mean, we meet every Thursday precisely at that time, and the weekly meeting will start within 5 minutes. So please join us and let's work on that. I think it's really a big window onto the future. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Terry. And that's a great point, right? This is by the members for the membership, for the industry. It's not one person or one company, and that's the power of it. We want to be able to empower global platforms for connectivity as a service, leveraging connectivity as a service. And it's not unless we have a consistent, repeatable, reusable, scalable way to do that, will we actually achieve it. So thank you for that, Terry, and thank you for all your work in the community and the industry. And Elaine, your final comments.
Sure, and from a marketplace point of view, I think that as a DSP, we need to start getting the proof of concept started, and there are vertical industry solutions out there already in the marketplace that operators are already delivering. But how do we marry these things together and really drive how connectivity as a service can really take off and make new revenues for the digital service provider. So I think that's key. And then from a TM Forum perspective, from the connectivity as a service and the software marketplaces, what are the key deliverables that we need from a technical perspective? I think is a good area where we need to focus. I think from a business capability point of view, we've documented some things. So maybe marrying what we have with the business capabilities with the technical capabilities is a good next step.
Super, thank you. So from myself here, Joann O'Brien at the studios, the DTWS studios in London, thank you all for joining us today. What we've shared with you is connectivity as a service in combination with zero-touch partnering, marketplaces and co-innovation. We believe this is the future. Please join us. We look forward to having you on our teams going forward. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.